This is Albert and the Lion by Marriott Edgar. There were one great big lion called Wallace. His nose were all covered with scars. He lay in a somnolent posture, with the side of his face on the bars. Now, Albert had heard about lions, how they was ferocious and wild. To see Wallace lying so peaceful, well, it didn't seem right to the child. So, straightway, the brave little fella, not showing a morsel of fear, took his stick with his horse's head handle and shoved it in Wallace's ear. Well, you could see that the lion didn't like it. For giving a kind of a roll, he pulled Albert inside the cage with him and swallowed the little lad whole. This is Andrew Crocker Harris from the Browning version by Terence Rattigan. You see, my dear Hunter, she really is quite as much to be pitied as I. We are, both of us, interesting subjects for your microscope. Both of us needing from the other something that would make life supportable for us, and neither of us able to give it. Two kinds of love, hers and mine, worlds apart as I now know, though when I married her I didn't think they were incompatible. In those days I hadn't thought that her kind of love, the love she requires and which I was unable to give her, was so important that its absence would drive out the other kind of love, the kind of love that I require and which I thought, in my folly, was by far the greater part of love. This is from A Child's Christmas in Wales by Dylan Thomas. The wind through the trees made noises of old and unpleasant and maybe web-footed men wheezing in caves. We reached the black bulk of the house. What shall we give them? Hark the herald? No, Jack said. Good King Wenceslas, I'll count 3. 1, 2, 3, and we began to sing. We stood close together near the dark door. And then a small, dry voice, like the voice of someone who has not spoken for a long time, joined our singing. A small, dry, eggshell voice from the other side of the door. A small, dry voice through the keyhole. And when we stopped running, we were outside our house. Perhaps it was a ghost, Jim said. Perhaps it was trolls, Dan said, who was always reading. Let's go in and see if there's any jelly left, Jack said. And we did that. This is Neil from Do It Again by Richard Stocks. Oh yes, I can walk out. Do you want to know why? First number, our theme tune. It's in F. It always has been. But you always start playing it in F sharp. I don't know why. Second number, it's my solo after the first chorus, not yours, but you always start playing one anyway. You fart, you belch into the mic, you start rolling a bleeding spliff, you drink JD on stage and you always turn up bleeding late. Well, I don't need this, and you do. That's why I can walk away. This is Graham from Talking Heads by Alan Bennett. There must be a famine on somewhere because we were just letting our midday meal go down when the vicar calls with some envelopes. Breezes in, anorak and running shoes, and he says, I always look forward to coming to this house, Mrs. Whittaker. He's got the idea she's deaf, which she's not. It's one of the few things she isn't. He says, do you know why? It's because you two remind me of Jesus and his mother. Well, I've always thought Jesus was a bit offhand with his mother, and on one occasion I remember he was quite snotty with her, but I didn't say anything. And of course Madam is over the moon. In her book, if you can't get compared with the Queen Mother, the Virgin Mary's the next best thing. She says, are you married? She asks him every time, never remembers. He said, no, Mrs. Whittaker, I'm married to God. She says, where does that leave you with the housework? This is Lie in the Dark and Listen by Noel Coward. Lie in the dark and listen. It's clear tonight, so they're flying high. Hundreds of them. Thousands, perhaps. Riding the icy moonlight sky. Men, materials, bombs and maps. Altimeters and guns and charts. Coffee, sandwiches, fleece-lined boots. Bones and muscles and minds and hearts. English saplings with English roots. Deep in the earth they've left below. Lie in the dark and let them go. Lie in the dark and listen. Lie in the dark and listen. This is Macbeth by William Shakespeare. She should have died hereafter. There would have been a time for such a word. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day, to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. This is Marcus from Find Him by Charlotte Davis. What cruel twist of fate has left me here? Why can he not live in my place? There is little for me left in this world but guilt and the awaited end. He had such a future, a wife, a kid, a life. All those things we once had, Martha. Hopes, dreams, all those fragile things we create for ourselves, and I have shattered each and every one of his. The drills are so much louder now. They must have found both bodies. Will they even bother coming for me? Whether they do or not, I shall just wait for you, my love.